get paper. Cause you know we party hard later. Mr. Flex and Papa got the old city lock, but you get the same each and every area. Stepping NLC with no chaser.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome. I am Alluminati, and this is the Crypto and Cognac podcast show, as always, powered by Alti.com, the one-click crypto wallet for Telegram, WhatsApp, and Discord. And as always, fueled by my friends at Hennessy TT. I'm having some VSOP tonight, trying to finish off this bottle. But I have a lot of truth telling, so I have a backup bottle just in case, right? This evening is very special because my guest is you guys. And we have had a lot of different people, a lot of experts, a lot of people with a lot of different perspectives on the podcast. And I'm always excited to have a guest on who I can talk to, who I can chat with, who I can interview. But I always enjoy spending time with just you guys, answering the questions and sharing with you guys. So today, I usually say nothing that we share here should be misconstrued as financial advice. And I'm gonna put in a little caveat this week because some of it kind of is financial advice, but you guys know your financial situations, and you are the only one who can tell what is a priority for you right now and what is not a priority for you right now. We have had these conversations before. I've showed you guys how to set up a MetaMask. I've showed you guys how to set up a Binance account. I've showed you guys how to set up a CoinGecko and how to use CoinGecko, how to use the various different networks on your MetaMask. But today I want to talk a little bit about, not so much about the how, but the why. And one specific why in terms of why someone, especially someone in the Caribbean, should participate in this crypto space. And I'm going to speak, a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is specifically directed towards Bitcoin, right? So it's not carte blanche across the whole industry. Guys, we understand there are scams. We understand there are rug pulls. We understand. But let's talk for a moment about Bitcoin, that truly decentralized protocol that allows everyone to participate, that allows everyone to abide by the same rules, that gives everyone an opportunity, that has no visible founder, that has no centralized entity or individual making decisions behind the scene. We're going to talk about Bitcoin and why you should participate in this Bitcoin space specifically, right? So we talk about, a lot of people ask me when they are interested in getting into cryptocurrency. Let me take a drink. A lot of people ask me about the risks associated with participating in the crypto space. And this is a very, very real and a very fair question to be asked. But today I want to ask another question. I want to ask about, have you guys considered the risk of not participating? Have you guys considered the risk of standing still, of doing nothing, or doing something that you know is inadequate? And we're going to speak specifically about inflation here. We're going to talk about not just the risk of, but the guarantee of losing 8+% of the value of your money each year through inflation, right? I'm going to take the opportunity to shout out a couple of people in the comments. Isan, Keisha, Beyond the Robe, Mecca Legal, That's a dope name. Leroy, what's up? So, for those of us living in the Caribbean, we most times get inundated with US news, or particularly we get inundated with first world countries news, whether it's Europe if you're in like Barbados and those spaces, or the US if you're in Trinidad, Jamaica, those spaces. And recently we've been hearing a lot of talk about inflation. We've been hearing the Fed talking about inflation. We've been hearing them talking about CPI inflation. We've been hearing them talking about money inflation. And they've been saying that the inflation rate last year was 3%, maybe 5%. Then we started hearing 6%. Now they've come out and said, it's closer to 7%. Is it 7%? Some people believe it's closer to 13%. But what does that mean? What does that inflationary consideration actually mean? Well, for us here in the Caribbean, we can use, and I'm going to use a very specific example to show what our inflationary conditions have looked like over the last 20 years and how that is impacting the purchasing power that your money has, right? And I'm going to talk about something that we all, can relate to. I'm going to talk about doubles, right? Because just about 20 years ago, when I started working, right? Yeah, you just aged me there. A doubles was $1. You could buy a doubles for $1 TT, because I live in Trinidad and Tobago. Fast forward 20 years later, a doubles is $6. What does that actually mean? And I created a little something here to really kind of represent what that looks like, or what that represents, right? So 20 years ago, $1, 20 years later, $6, that actually represents an inflationary rate of 9.35% per year over the last 20 years. So just over the last 20 years, we're talking about 9.35%, almost 10% inflation for 20 years, right? Now, 20 years ago, when I just came into the workforce, I started as a teller in a bank, right? And my income back then, I'm going to show you what that looked like. It was $4,500 a month, right? And I thought I was rich. It was the biggest paycheck I'd ever gotten, right? Now, 20 years later, if we apply the same 9.35% inflation rate, someone starting as a bank teller today, to be able to have the equivalent purchasing power that I had then in doubles, not in all things, but in doubles, would need to be earning $26,889 just to be able to buy the same amount of doubles that I would have bought 20 years ago with my $4,500. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know any bank teller fresh out of high school who is earning $26,000. I don't know many managers in the bank earning $26,000. But that is not something that we actually think about, right? Because we live in each day and we're not really looking at the erosion of our purchasing power over time. So just from that example, we are seeing how much our purchasing power would have been eroded over the last 20 years. So what does that mean for the next 20 years? What does that mean for someone who wants to stay on pace with the purchasing power that they have today and have that same purchasing power in 20 years. So somebody like myself, in 20 years, hopefully, I expect to be retired. Can I have the same lifestyle today as I'm gonna have 20 years from now, based on the current inflationary projection? Which means if I'm making $4,500 today, then I need to be making $26,000 in 20 years if the inflationary rate stays at 9% or under. How realistic is that based on what we've seen happen over the previous 20 years? Now, past performance is no guarantee of future performance. However, it's a very close indicator. Now we just spoke about your income, right? Now, for those who would have saved $4,500, who would have deposited that $4,500 into a bank account and showed up 20 years later, hoping to be able to access it and be able to buy the same amount of things, or in this case, doubles, as they could have 20 years ago, they would need to have $26,000 in their bank account to be able to do that. Is that likely? It's not, because over the last 20 years, I don't know about you guys, but not many bank accounts, not many mutual funds, not many savings account, not many credit union dividends have been paying in excess of 9% per annum. And what that basically means is that for each percentage that your investment, your savings, your salary is not able to keep pace with inflation, your money is walking backwards. I don't know how to really get this message across more strongly than to say that we are all at risk, right? The poor are at risk. Pensioners are at risk. People who hope to retire comfortably are at risk. People with large cash savings are at risk. Companies with large cash treasuries are at risk. We are all at risk of and at guaranteed risk of inflation eroding our funds. Now, what does this have to do with Bitcoin? Well, since its inception, Bitcoin has been the number one performing asset. It has outperformed every single other asset class since its inception. Meaning real estate outperformed, bond markets outperformed, the stock market outperformed, savings accounts, wappy on the corner, playing lotto, Bitcoin has outperformed it all. So my advice for persons who are looking for an opportunity to keep pace with, at minimum, inflation, my recommendation is to start doing your research, start doing your risk assessment, start looking at your time horizon, start looking at some of your goals and allocating, even if it's a small percentage of your portfolio, as a hedge against inflation. We are seeing the big investment banks in the US doing it. We're seeing multinational companies doing it. We've seen companies like Tesla doing it by holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And we've seen El Salvador move in the direction of investing in Bitcoin and in the mining process of Bitcoin. We saw as recently as today, the Panamanian Congress pass a bill to legalize the use of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And that is just now waiting on assent by their president. So that's one component. And I think a lot of us who live in Western societies, we don't see how real that risk of inflation or hyperinflation is, and how quickly it can derail any savings that you have in place. And we've seen this happen before, right? For us who live in Trinidad and Tobago, it has happened very close to home, in Venezuela recently. We saw it happen in Argentina a couple years ago, right? We've seen it happen in Chile. We've seen it happen in Peru. We've seen it happen in Europe before, right? With the German paper mark. So this is not some idea that could only happen in Zimbabwe. This could only happen in Venezuela. Venezuela is the country in the world that has the largest oil reserves, and it happened to them, right? Argentina is a huge economy in South America, and it happened to them. And what they actually did, and one of the reasons why I think that Bitcoin might be the best solution for this is because of its decentralized nature, right? Because even if you say, great, I could get these returns in the stock market, I could get these returns in the real estate market, the fact of the matter is that all a government has to do to transfer that value from you to them is by introducing taxation, right? So even the most sought after real estate in the world or in your country, right? It could be in Port of Spain, Trinidad, it could be in Bridgetown, it could be in Kingston, it could be wherever. The most sought after property, if the government were to introduce a property tax, you cannot pick up that building or that piece of land and move it to another country that doesn't have those same taxation considerations. You can't, right? No matter how, if let's say you want to save in gold, fine, you're gonna keep your bars of gold home, okay, and something happens in your country. How are you leaving with the gold? They're gonna confiscate it at the airport, at the seaport, right? Bitcoin is digital gold, right? You could literally move around this world with your password, your seed phrase in your head, and be able to access your Bitcoin anywhere in the world. You could leave with just your hands swinging or your family in your hands and show up somewhere else and be able to start over with some kind of base. And we've seen it happen before. I was going to talk about Argentina. So what happened in Argentina is that the government made a declaration that no one was allowed to hold savings in any other currency but the national currency. So if you had a US account, that US account was converted immediately to the Argentinian peso. And then the day after or a couple of days after, they devalued their dollar against the US dollar. So this is a very real situation. So someone who may have had $1 million in US, they were told, okay, you cannot have this money in US dollars. It is now against the law to hold money in this country in US dollars as a citizen, as an individual, right? So they took your $1 million, they converted it, let's say in Trinidad and Tobago, they converted 6.8, right? So now you have 6.8 million TT dollars, right? And then next week, they float the TT dollar, and the TT dollar is now $8.50 to one. So now that $6.8 million that you had last week cannot buy back 1 million US. It could probably buy 750,000. I'm just making a guesstimation here. I'm not using a calculator. But that is the real impact of your money being devalued based on it being controlled by a centralized entity. And that's a real case. That's not a guesstimation. This has happened before. But to give another story as a comparison, there was a situation, I think in the early 2000, maybe 2012 or 2014, around there, where there was a yachting town in Sardinia in Europe, and they had tourism. They had yachting tourism. So all the big, expensive, rich yachts would go there, and the rich people would jump off and they would shop and they would whatever, and then they would jump back on their boat and they would go away without paying any taxes, other than whatever the maybe value-added tax or any kind of shopping taxes were. And the government of Sardinia decided, that's not fair. They shouldn't be able to come here and take advantage of our space without contributing back, right? So they decided, here's what. We are going to put a tax on these yachts. If your yacht is this size to this size, you're going to pay this. If your yacht is bigger than that, you're going to pay this particular amount. And they thought they had a brilliant idea of a way to generate more revenue for their village, for their country, for their town. And what happened? The yachts stopped coming, right? Because yachts are mobile, right? Yachts can go to another port where they're not going to have to pay those taxes. And that's basically what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is mobile capital as compared to the building or the piece of land. Bitcoin can be picked up and moved, right? Even the most valuable piece of land in Trinidad and Tobago is only your only market for that is somebody who wants to live in Trinidad and Tobago, as compared to Bitcoin, where your market is the world. Someone in China wants your Bitcoin. Somebody in Africa wants your Bitcoin. Somebody in Europe wants your Bitcoin. Somebody in the US wants your Bitcoin. Somebody right here in our Caribbean neighbors want your Bitcoin. Wouldn't you prefer to have a product, an asset that was accessible to the world as compared to reduced to a small niche market? I just say. So guys, these are some of the considerations. The next thing we've been hearing a lot about is about the money printing, right? We talked about the currency inflation. And the fact of the matter is we've been seeing that the US government has printed or put into circulation more than 40% of their current circulating supply of US dollars has been created in the last 2 years, right? What does that do? That also devalues your money, because demand and supply, right? If we have, let's say we have 10 apples and we only have $10 to be able to buy these 10 apples, then it just makes sense that one apple is going to be $1, right? But if we give each person an additional $100, or not even an extra $100, we give each person an additional $2, right? Now we have $30 in this apple economy. Obviously, there's the same amount of apples, the price of apples going to go up, right? So if you weren't one of the people who got $2 extra, right, then how are you going to be able to buy an apple when the apple price is now $3 for one? And that's the reality that we are facing every single day. Again, comparison to Bitcoin, Bitcoin is the apex asset as it relates to being deflationary. There will always and forever be 21 million Bitcoin. They have nobody who can make more. They have no way of printing more. They have no way of increasing the supply. So what does that mean? Right now, 4% of the world population is participating in the crypto space. A Bitcoin is whatever price the Bitcoin is today. What happens when it goes to 8%? What happens when it goes to 12%? Still 21 million. What happens when we get to 20% of the population of the world? So we're talking 2 billion people now are interested in holding this scarce asset. Still 21 million. We get to 50%. still only 21 million. I don't know. It makes sense to me, right? So for me, as far as my asset allocations, where I am securing investments for the long term, when I evaluate all the various assets available, for me personally, Bitcoin comes out on top. And, I feel comfortable talking about Bitcoin because at the end of the day, everybody know that this is not a paid advertisement, because there's no team running Bitcoin. There is no marketing budget allocated for Bitcoin. It just is what it is. And one of the things that I love about Bitcoin is that everyone has the same access. Everybody has the same rules to follow. So whether you have $100 million or you have $100, you benefit in the same way proportionately to your investment. It's not that somebody who have $100 million in, if it goes up by 10%, they get 10% and you get 2%. No, you get the same 10% on your $100. So that $100 is able to keep pace with inflation, as the case may be, and you will have the same purchasing power, or maybe more, maybe less. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but you are going to be able to benefit in the same way. And that person who has $100 million worth of Bitcoin, they can't say, well, I own more than you and I'm going to take this from you as well. They can't. Everybody has to follow the same rules of the protocol. That's one of the things that I love about Bitcoin. It's the same rules for everybody. Whether you have 1%, whether you have 80%, whether you have 0.01%. And I think that brings me to an important point, and I'm gonna use this as I'm gonna take the opportunity to use this as the Crypto Caribbean TV tips of the week. One of the things that I wish I did 5 years ago when I first heard about Bitcoin, I wish I would have gone and done my research. I wish I would have understood that I didn't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. I wish I understood that I could buy 1% of a Bitcoin. I could buy $10 worth of Bitcoin. I could buy $20 worth of Bitcoin, as the case may be. And then I would have taken the decision, as I'm advising you to do now, and not buy that extra beer, not go to that extra party, not buy that extra t-shirt that I didn't need, and invest a small amount of money into Bitcoin. Delayed gratification, putting aside some basic pleasures for long-term security. And that is the advice that I would have given to myself had I had the opportunity to go back. Well, if I had the opportunity to go back, I would have told myself to buy real Bitcoin. So guys, let me jump into the comments there and see what kind of questions being asked there. I went off on a little rant there. I'm sorry, guys. Leah is saying, yes, the financial powerhouses of the world have already adopted Bitcoin. That's the facts. The facts is that these guys are buying Bitcoin. All of these major investment bankers are buying Bitcoin now, even though 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they were saying that this is not, it's not going to be worth anything. It's a waste of time, whatever. And now, what are they doing? They're rolling it out, but they're rolling it out to who first? They're rolling it out to their high net worth customers. So again, they're trying to hoard the opportunity, but you don't have to wait on them. The fact of the matter is, Bitcoin lives in a decentralized environment. You can access it just as easily, maybe even easier than some of these big corporations. You can access Bitcoin easier than Morgan Stanley. You can access Bitcoin easier than Goldman Sachs. You could access it easier than Scotiabank and Answer and all of these. You could just go online and buy. Once you have access to the internet and you have a means of onboarding, you have access to it right now. Stephen, what's up? Cynthia, what's up? Let me see. All right. I seen a lot of people agreeing with me. Not too much questions. But yeah, I mean, and I don't doubt for one moment that countries, leaders are accumulating, and while they deliberate about whether or not they're gonna give the rest of us access to it, whether or not they're gonna make it okay for us to buy, they claim they want to protect us financially, but protect us from who? On one side, we have an opportunity to do something that historically, this is not 2012. We're not talking about 2012 when Bitcoin, there was no historical information about Bitcoin. There was no historical data about Bitcoin. We've seen Bitcoin grew. We've seen adoption. We've seen uh, major corrections. Some people call them crashes. We've seen all-time highs. But over time, would you rather buy something else? If you could go back in time now, would you not buy Bitcoin? If you could go back to to yourself 10 years ago, would you tell them don't buy Bitcoin because it's gonna have a major correction in December 2021 and it's gonna go from 69,000 down to 40,000? That's what you're gonna tell yourself when you could have got it at $10? Of course not. So just give yourself the mental grace to think about what would you tell yourself or hope that yourself would tell you if you could come back from 10 years in the future. What's the advice you would give to yourself right now? Not to buy Bitcoin because it's a scam. I'm not saying spend your rent money. Please do not do that. I am not saying spend your kids' school money. Do not do that. But that extra beer, like I said, that extra party, that extra line, that extra clothing, that extra Shein for the ladies, Fashion Nova, fellas, that extra Nike that you already have 10 Nikes of. That might be the difference between you staying above water or not. If something unfortunate were to happen in the global economic situation. Yes, sir, Stephen. Do your own research. I mean, and guys, there's so much information out there. There is so much information out there on YouTube. Just make sure you do your vetting, right? If you don't have the time, to go and discern what is appropriate information, what is not appropriate information, there are formal opportunities out there. There is Udemy, or however it is pronounced it, where they offer courses. There are tons of free courses. I mean, you could follow people on YouTube and social media like Crypto Casey is great. Andreas Antonopoulos is great when it comes to talking about Bitcoin. Who else is good? Oh my God, one of my favorite channels is Coin Bureau. Coin Bureau is excellent for information, and it's all free, you know. So do your own research. Yeah. I mean, if I could go back 10 years, I would have go all in. I would have probably stopped renting. I'd have moved into my car, live in my car. I'd be putting every single cent out of that $4,500. I wasn't even buying doubles for $1 and thing. I was going all in on Bitcoin. Doubles might be the only other asset that might have been able to compete with Bitcoin. Doubles up or 500% over 20 years. Not bad. If only you could have stored doubles, freeze doubles from 20 years ago. Be sitting pretty right now. So guys, I didn't wanna go on and on this evening as it relates to this particular topic, but I thought it was, super important for people to stop, take a good look at what happened in the world, especially as it relates to inflationary conditions, and see that if you don't do something now, you could be in trouble. Inflation is double digits. It's not official, but we know. Every time I go to the grocery, I see prices up by 20, 30%. And that's on a bi-weekly basis. I'm talking about every 2 weeks, the prices are up. They're telling us it's 7, 8%, but it's not. Our salaries aren't increasing at that rate. The banks are paying less than 1%, if anything, right? When you deduct the fees that they charge for just having the account for ATM withdrawals, I mean, you're operating in minus. So do your research. All right. I'm now ready to wrap up, and Leah decides she have questions. What are your thoughts on the soon to launch Bitcoin mining farm that Answer is launching? Well, I mean, it's great to see that something is happening in the country as it relates to Bitcoin mining. Still to be seen if the government gives them the allowances that they're asking for in terms of electricity pricing. Let's see if the government doesn't decide to go it on their own. But what it says to me is the value proposition in Bitcoin, because it's very rare, especially in our country, Trinidad and Tobago, that the private sector decides to go forward with a business proposition without having the support of the government, or without the government starting first and then them getting involved after. So for me, I think that the clearly smarter people at Answer than I am would have done their assessments. They would have spoken to their advisors, two different advisors, and clearly they see a very strong business opportunity where they're interested in investing $500 million US over this particular period, beginning with $100 million US initial investment. If that doesn't say to people the potential for this space, I mean, I don't know what they need to see. Don't listen to me, listen to the experts, the people who put in $100 billion where their mouth is and acting. Yes, Stephen, I mean, yeah, the financial barrier to entering mining will be sky high in a few years. It's sky high relative now for most people trying to participate. And I'm saying to people, you don't have to be a miner, right? You don't have to be a day trader. You don't have to invest 1,000 US or 10,000 US to participate. I'm saying that instead of buying 6 beers, which is 100 TT or more, take that 100 TT, convert it to crypto, There are means you could use your credit card from some banks. There are onboarding services, and take that 100 TT and buy yourself $15-20 worth of Bitcoin. That's my advice. That's what I would be doing. That is what I'm doing. Because yes, that $15 might be looking like $11 in the next few months. Maybe even next year, it might be $12. But in 10 years, based on past experience, yeah, I think it might be the better bet than, my 6 Guinness. Just saying. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they counted as the infrastructure costs, Stephen. I don't know if that's just the buildings and stuff like that. I don't know if they would have counted the hardware and stuff in that 0.5 billion. I'm sure they would have, because when you start calling those figures, it's because you intend to show that you're putting your best foot forward. So I think they would have put the full amount in there. Yeah, I mean, Leah, you don't even have to fill your bags. Put whatever little bit in the bag as possible. If we could afford to put is $2, put it. Start where you are. Start with what you have. That's the advice I would have given to myself. The reason I took so long to start is because I thought I needed to buy a whole Bitcoin. And back then, a Bitcoin was $3,000, 3,000 US dollars, and that was about $1 billion in my world back then. Because I was just trying to meet my monthly obligations and do the things that I thought was important to me. But had I known I could buy $30 with a Bitcoin, I would have probably buy $30. And that's the message I want to get across. Like, do even try to become a millionaire. This is not about becoming a millionaire. This is not about hitting it big on Doge. If your goal is to get rich quick from putting in a little bit amount of money, go and play lotto. This is about staying ahead of inflation, preserving the buying power of your money, being able to have custody of your wealth, to be able to take it with you wherever you go. If you decide to leave the current place that you reside in, that's what this is about for me, right? For the poor man who only have $100, at least your $100 could grow at the same rate that the man who have $100 million is growing at. You have the opportunity. You may not have 0.5 billion US dollars like Answer, but you have the opportunity to benefit in the same way, proportionately. Why wouldn't you do it? So this is not even about education anymore. This is a plea. This is a plea. I wish I had listened to that guy who was telling people, guys, buy Bitcoin when it was $1, telling people to buy Bitcoin, buy $100 worth of Bitcoin. I wish I saw that video. I wish I'd listened to him. I didn't see it. I didn't listen. But now I see, and I feel obligated to share that information. I feel obligated to tell people these are the options. Guaranteed loss of value at 8% or more per year via inflation. Or on the other hand, you have an asset that has not just kept pace but outpaced inflation and every single other asset class in the world for the last 12 years. Those are your options. What would you choose? I know what I doing. Yes, Da Vinci was telling folks, but we wasn't listening. No, Da Vinci spending $30,000 a month on champagne. Madness. I'm not saying to do that for the champagne. Preserve what you have. So guys, if there are no more questions, I'm gonna end this one a little early today. If you guys see value here, share it with your friends. If you guys continue to find value in the community, share, share. We are on Instagram at crypto_Caribbean. We are on Twitter at Crypto Caribbean. The O is a 0. We are here on YouTube, Crypto Caribbean TV, on Facebook, Crypto Caribbean TV. We're everywhere, right? If for some reason you want to follow me, I am Alluminati 333 everywhere. If you want to send me some crypto, if you want to send me some Bitcoin, you could send it to Alluminati333.bitcoin. I take in wherever you send. So guys, as I say all the time, adoption is inevitable. We are seeing it daily. Adoption is inevitable. Don't wait. Don't be left out. Don't be the last on the train. Yeah. See you guys next week. Next week we have a super exciting guest. I'm not gonna spill it yet. Right? You're gonna have to stay tuned. Right, guys? Alluminati out. Stay blessed.